so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Hoosier Huddle Podcast. I'm Sammy Jacobs. Along with me is T.J. Inman, and we're presented by Heartwork Brewing. And here is a word from our friends over at Heartwork.
Heartwork Brewing, we are fiercely independent. From our variety of craft beers to our artisan Neapolitan-style pizzas, we put our heart into our work. We offer a full menu of draft beers, from our award-winning lagers to IPAs, sours, even our house-made seltzer. Our Northside Taproom has a variety of events and spaces for groups of all sizes. Heartwork is proud to be a locally and veteran-owned business here in Bloomington, just a stone's throw from Memorial Stadium and Assembly Hall at 1703 North College Avenue. Visit heartworkbrewing.com for hours and event info.
All right, TJ, we are back. Indiana is rolling. They head out to Maryland on Saturday, 3:30, kickoff on CBS. But let's get to the UCLA game really quick. UCLA came in red hot, a trendy pick to cover or upset the Hoosiers, and that, I don't know, flame lasted a play, 2 plays. Not 3 plays, as Indiana went 56-6. Aiden Fisher started the party with a pick six on was he trying to throw the ball away, or was it a screen pass that he just stuck his arm out?
I believe it was a screen pass. It was an example right away of Indiana getting pressure on Nico Iamaleava, making him uncomfortable in the pocket. It was the plan that Bryant Haynes wanted to execute, was to, number one, keep him contained, and number two, get pressure on him to make him uncomfortable. That's exactly what they did all day.
Yeah, and, Kirk Cignetti was extremely complimentary of Brian Haynes and Mike Shanahan post-game. He talked about Haynes again yesterday at his media conference, and it used to make you nervous that, hey, let's not gas up these coordinators so they could go take a better job. Now somebody's going to come calling for a head coaching position, but man, these 2 coordinators, they've been with him forever. He has a total faith in them, and you saw Michigan State kind of screen past IU to death. They worked on it in practice, and UCLA tried to do the same thing and couldn't do it. I thought the defense played very, very well. The biggest concern coming out of the game was that Aiden Fisher didn't finish the first quarter, or finished the first quarter and didn't play the rest of the game. Kirk Cignetti called him probable for Saturday, which I think, there's been discussion on our forums, TJ, whether or not if there's any kind of ding to Aiden Fisher, do you just sit him? Maryland's kind of dangerous. We'll get into them in a second bit, but if you could get Aiden Fisher on the field and have him play, I think that's better for the defense. And then if you end up running away with the game, maybe pulling them early and taking them away, because we've talked about that under Kirk Cignetti, is that he leaves his starters in longer than we'd like. But hey, we're not getting paid whatever $11 million to win football games. Barely getting paid $11 to talk about football games. So it's a delicate situation there. But we'll see. He's probable. Brendan Franke was listed as questionable. I don't know what Kirk Cignetti thinks probable is. Is it a 51% chance of playing? It's questionable. 49% chance I'm playing. So we'll see 2 hours before kickoff. But offensively, I didn't think it was Fernando Mendoza's sharpest game. He threw the early pick, but man, he might have had his Heisman moment running the ball. making guys miss in his, I don't know, baby giraffe running style. Then he said he was faster than he thought and got to the end zone. So 4 total touchdowns. Wasn't as sharp passing, but, they tried to take Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper away, and E.J. Williams shows up. So what did you like about IU's offense against UCLA?
I think UCLA's secondary deserves quite a bit of credit. I thought that they were physical with Indiana. They got called for pass interference a few times, but they were physical with them at the line of scrimmage and really did a nice job of preventing Elijah Surratt from really being a factor. Omar Cooper had a few plays, but you're right. E.J. Williams steps up, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns for E.J. That's really good to see. And Mendoza was not razor sharp. I do think UCLA's secondary had something to do with it. But IU turned to the running game, and they took what the defense was giving them. We talked before the game about wanting to see the running game. Not that it was bad at all, but get into a little bit more of a rhythm. And they did. IU ran the ball 47 times for 5.6 yards a carry. The game script followed what IU would want, right? You get that lead, have some big plays early, and then take advantage of that lead by just handing the ball off. In this case, 47 times. Kobe Martin gets some action in the second half. He continues to look the part. Roman Hemby had a good game. Kalen Black had a couple of really nice runs. It was a balanced rushing attack, and they run for 5.6 yards a carry, with Mendoza also, using his legs to make some plays. So that was good to see. The offensive line, I thought, had another, very strong game. And I do think that just from a game script standpoint, it played out how IU would want it to. Alberto Mendoza gets in the game. He gets to make some plays. He got to throw it a few times, but was mostly handing it off. He did have the interception, just did not see a defender as he was thrown it into the end zone. That got picked off, but he showed how dangerous he is with his legs as a positive. So there was a lot to like from the offense. There was a lot to like from the defense. They outgained UCLA by 275 yards and really put any doubt about the game, as you mentioned, to bed right away. It was a very mature performance from Indiana. It was a team that came in red hot. A lot of talk about them being a dangerous opponent. And Indiana did not waste any time making sure UCLA knew, hey, you guys are playing better, but it ain't happening today. No, you do not have a chance. And it's just a matter of how much we're going to beat you by, not whether or not you're going to hang in this game.
Yeah, and then on the positive side, you got some of the younger guys in. Byron Baldwin played a lot in the second half, came up with 3 tackles, was on special teams. He got his feet wet in his first look. You got Matt Merrick and some other guys on the offensive line in, with Austin Lipfried playing the backup center spot.
Johnny played quite a bit.
Johnny played. Caden Turner came in late in the game. He's, if you get dinged up at linebacker, he's a guy you're going to have to need. And we talked about it last week too. And this is no longer a 13-game season is your goal. Your goal is 15 or 16 games.
Yeah.
Depending on if you get a bye. Yeah, with the Big Ten title game, whether or not you get a bye in the first round in the playoff. And I think this is where having that bye before Purdue could be a positive as well. You could have a couple weeks of rest there, not in a row, but in the same month.
Right. If it plays out the way you want it to, which there's still work to do, nothing has been accomplished on that front yet. But if it plays out the way that you want it to, you're looking at a bye week after Wisconsin. before Purdue, you play in the Big Ten championship game, you get a bye into the quarterfinals. So 2 weeks of rest, 2 games over the course of 4 weeks. That'd be a pretty good situation to kind of heal up some bumps and bruises, and hopefully.
And the quarterfinals are New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, so you got a few extra weeks to get healthy there as well. But you also saw LeBron Bond, Charlie Becker, Jonathan Brady on the not derogatory, but that's the B team.
Becker had a nice catch.
He's going to be really good. So you got guys in earlier than I think that Cignetti usually puts them in blowouts. So getting that experience, I think he's adjusting his philosophy on that a little bit. Now you got to be careful on guys you want a red shirt, but I would assume that Byron Baldwin, the plan was not to redshirt him all year if he was able to play. Yeah. So they're not going to redshirt him and things like that. So let's set the scene for Maryland. They started the season red hot at 4-0. They led Washington. What was it, 24-0 or 20-0 in the third quarter, and lost 20. Yeah, it was 20-0. Going into the fourth quarter, they lost 24-20. Then they lost by 3 to Nebraska and blew a big lead there. And then, had a lead late in the game against UCLA and let that slip away. So they're in their October slide, which seems to be a thing under Mike Locksley, but this is a very talented team who could easily be 7-0. And Sig gassed them up yesterday as well. This defense takes the ball away. I thought Maryland, probably outside of Ohio State and Notre Dame last year, gave Indiana the most trouble. They turned Curtis Rourke over 4 or 5 times. Now, the offense didn't do much after it, but they had a ton of talent on offense. I think the defense is more talented this year. With NFL guys, they take the ball away. They've scored, I think, 4 times on interceptions.
Yep.
So they're not they're dangerous, and they're momentum stealers, and they outscore opponents by a ton of points in the first 3 quarters. They just haven't finished yet. So we'll see. They got a young quarterback, Malik Washington, at freshman. He's completing just under 60% of his passes, 11 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. But this is where Brian Haynes' defense feasts, right? Making young quarterbacks make decisions and making them think and making them look like freshmen. So what's your take on the Terps?
You can look at this team one of 2 ways. You can look at it as, yes, they're 4-3, but their losses are by a combined 10 points, and they've had the lead in the fourth quarter of every game. You can look at that, and that would be true. You can also look at it and say this Maryland team is 4-3. They've lost 3 games in a row, and they've yet to play a team that was ranked. So, also true. I tend to think that this defense is legitimately good. I do think that they have quite a bit of talent. They're number 1 in the country in turnover margin per game at 1.7 per game plus 1.7 per game. Now, again, stats can sometimes be slightly misleading. That's buoyed by a +6 from the season opener against Florida Atlantic, who just cratered and had 6 turnovers while Maryland didn't have any in that blowout win. So, that's plays into it, but still, they consistently do take the ball away. Their secondary is good. I think that they have a really good playmaker in Jalen Husky. Unfortunately for them, he is out for at least the first half of this game, serving a targeting suspension. And he also got hurt on that play. We don't know his status coming into this contest, but we do know he's not going to play in the first half.
Unless they appealed it and won, but Maryland hasn't updated their website since like 2024.
I searched around when I was writing the Know Your Opponent and did not find anything referencing an appeal. So we don't think that that's happened. We do think he'll be out for the first half. Now, outside of turnover margin, they do a good job on third down. They're just outside the top 25 on teams against, on third down. Indiana, as I thought the broadcast against UCLA pointed out, has done a really good job of getting into third and manageable situations, staying out of third and long. I thought that was well done by Fox's broadcast. They really pointed out, Indiana's good on third down, but here's why. They've been really good on first and second down to set themselves up for short third downs. That helps a ton when you're not in third and long situations. And it
Fish
continued.
and Buck mentioned that on the radio broadcast too, and how those 5-yard out routes on first down set up second and 5, or the 5-yard runs set up, second and you're ahead of the chains, and you're looking at third and 4 or less most of the time. And what did IU go 12 for 14 on third down, and then 2 for 2 on fourth down? So
versus UCLA that really had a hard time not being in third and long, and as a result, barely converted any. So they're good against the run, but I think better. What I think Maryland needs to be concerned about, they are giving up quite a few yards per game. Their yards per game is like 363, I think, which is right in the middle for power conference teams, a little bit below the middle. They're giving up a lot of yards. Those turnovers are really doing a lot of work for their defensive profile. They're solid against the run. They don't sack the quarterback a whole lot, but that's partly because teams run the ball on them kind of successfully. So I think Indiana's game plan, I mean, we know what IU's going to do. They're going to attempt to get a lead by throwing the ball early, get out in front, and then pound them on the run. And then that opens up additional passing opportunities as the defense loads the box to try to stop that. It's classic, take what the defense gives you. Nothing, innovative, but executed really well. Obviously, not letting Maryland get those turnovers is a huge key, because if you can prevent them from getting those turnovers, you can absolutely move the ball on them. And that's something that we've seen in the fourth quarters of these games. They're not forcing turnovers in the fourth quarters, and they're giving up the leads. So I think you like Indiana's ability to move the ball on Maryland if they take care of the ball, which they have pretty much done all season. Mendoza, 1 interception thrown against UCLA, but it was just a good play by the UCLA defense to bat that ball at the line. Mendoza almost catches it himself, but it bobbles up and gets picked off by the UCLA player, Scooter Jackson. I don't really fault Mendoza much for that. Other than that, they've taken really good care of the ball. So if that continues, you like IU's chances to move it.
Yeah, the Mendoza play in another universe is the same as what Purdue's play with Ryan Brown catching it and then fumbling it and losing the game, and probably the most hilarious way you could lose a football game.
Yeah.
But he doesn't put the ball in harm's way as much as Curtis Rourke did last year. Right. And he makes as good as Curtis Rourke was last year. There were some throws last year that, especially against Maryland, where you're going, that's not where you really want to throw it. And Fernando Mendoza, for the most part, has not done that this year. There's been tip balls, interceptions. There have been plays where, he's underthrown it, like the one at Oregon, where he's been hit, like the one at Iowa, but he's bounced back from each interception really well. And I think that speaks to his ability and his maturity going on from there. Maryland's offense, to me, this is like an inverse of a normal Maryland team we've seen under Mike Locksley. Where it's been high octane offense and a defense, like you need to outscore your defense. The defense is only allowing 17.3 points per game, but the offense is only scoring 28.3 points per game. Where they get bogged down a little bit, they have 47 penalties for 440 yards. That's a lot of penalties through 7 games.
Yeah.
And
that's a trend from previous seasons as well.
Yeah. So that they're going to, have some undisciplined penalties, and you can't give this Indiana team free yards on either side of the ball or on special teams. But, Malik Washington's having a great freshman year, completing 59.7% of his passes, 1,716 yards, 11 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. They don't run the ball all that well. They let Roman Henby walk so that Nolan Ray could get more playing time. He was supposed to be the more explosive back. He's only averaging 3.8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Freshman DeJuan Williams, 3.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Malik Washington is their leader on the ground in touchdowns with 3, but he only has 98 yards rushing. And I think what plays in IU's favor, this is the 3rd or 4th week in a row they've played a quarterback who could run. If you want to go back to Dante Moore at Oregon, but you look at Aiden Childs, you look at Nico Iamaleava, and you look at Malik Washington. All 3 of those guys are big-bodied quarterbacks who could run, get out of the pocket. Aiden Childs hurt him against Michigan State.
Yeah.
Iamaleava did okay. He was tough to bring down, man. They would get bodies there. It'd take him.
Yeah.
He is playing hard, and to credit to him, because he took it on the chin this offseason as being spoiled, entitled, and things like that when he transferred from Tennessee. But he rallied that team to those 3 wins, and, man, there was no quit in him. He played, 75% of the 80% of that game in a blowout and gave it his all. And then Malik Washington also is a bigger quarterback, 6'5", 231. It is going to be important to bring them down to the ground. Now that they had Nico wrapped up, but he was carrying defenders 2 or 3 yards to turn the first opening sack. Could have been a 5-yard loss, ended up being a 2-yard loss.
Mm-hmm.
So, Malik Washington can throw the ball. They don't have the receivers that they had talent as they did last year. Now, right. Octavian Smith is back, but Shalik Knox, who 26 catches for 421 yards. There's no guys they had last year like Ty Felton or Caden Prather. Roman Henby had 40 catches for them last year. They just don't have that all-star playmaker on offense that kind of scares you, like when you went in there a couple years ago and all of a sudden it's 21-0 7 minutes into the game because they have 4 70-yard passes.
Yeah, Jashawn Jones, and good players for sure. One note on Malik Washington, I do wonder if once defenses got some game film on him, if a little bit of a freshman wall scenario has hit. You look at his yards per attempt, and it has dropped kind of precipitously here. In the past 3 games, he's got only 3 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and then his yards per attempt, 4.5 yards per attempt against Washington, the Huskies, not the quarterback. 6.7 against Nebraska, which is a good improvement. And they had a pretty good day offensively that day. And then 4.4 against UCLA. You look at their offensive line's numbers, they look like they're a really good pass blocking unit. And they are improved. But one of the reasons that they've given up only 0.3 sacks per game, which is right up there tops in the country, they do not have him hold that ball in the pocket at all. He is really first read throw. And a lot of screen passes, a lot of short wide receiver screens, trying to get the ball out of his hands to make sure that he's not taking hits in the pocket, he's not taking sacks. So that will be something to watch is IU's really good pass rush and, good secondary against Maryland's offensive scheme. The screen game hurt Indiana badly against Michigan State. They adjusted. UCLA didn't have near the same success. Maryland's going to have to try to do the same thing because I don't think that they want Malik Washington in a situation where he's trying to go through his progressions against IU's, pass rush coming on. They've done a good job of kind of helping him as a freshman starter, but against Bryant Haynes, I don't know if that's a matchup that they're looking to really find out much about. I think it's going to be a similar game plan of try to get that ball quickly out of his hands and attempt to make plays after the catch.
Yeah, and Indiana does such a terrific job of tackling and rallying to the ball. And Fish and Buck brought this up in the radio broadcast, is that, UCLA would rake and grab at the ball and try to force takeaways. But you allow an extra 5, 10, 15 yards sometimes, whereas Indiana, you tackle first, wrap them up, and the yards after contact or the yards after catch are not super high. So that's Cignetti and Brian Haynes' defense is if you're going to score, you're going to score on a 10-play drive, and eventually you're going to mess up. And that's, that's what happens. And you're going against a true freshman quarterback who you expect to make mistakes. Let's anything else on the Terrapin offense?
No. I think as we move to kind of the matchups that you'd be watching or the keys to the game, if you will, I do think it's going to be Fernando Mendoza and IU's passing game going against that Maryland secondary that's done such a good job forcing turnovers. Again, I think if IU can take care of the ball, they're going to move it and score on this Maryland defense. If Maryland can set themselves up with a couple of short fields, or as they've done 4 times this year, get a pick six and put some points on the board against IU's offense, those are the types of things that can flip a matchup and make a game that otherwise Indiana's comfortable. It could make it into a scary situation on the road. So I think Fernando Mendoza and the IU passing game going against that Maryland secondary is the matchup that I'm looking at. Certainly plenty of other ones to watch, but I think that one, if IU takes care of business there, I don't see any reason why they can't, again, have another really productive day and score 40+.
Yeah, that was my matchup to watch too, is Indiana's receivers against the secondary, or Fernando Mendoza against the secondary. Take a pick on either of them because it's strength against strength. So I do think, and we'll get into it in a second on what IU needs to do to win. But that's the key battle of the game is, can the IU passing attack beat the Maryland secondary? And the Maryland secondary does take the ball away a ton. Let me see how many total interceptions they have. They have 14 total.
Yeah.
14. So they average 2 a game, and then they've gotten 290 yards and 4 touchdowns off of those 7 interceptions. So, which is kind of their offense. You know, that's a lot of their offense. You know, at 28.3 points per game is created by the defense and those hidden yards and return yards. So IU will raise the victory flag if TJ.
Yeah. So obviously, we just talked about number 1, don't turn the ball over. Number 2, IU raises the victory flag if they defend the screen passes well. Defend the screen pass like they did against Michigan State, particularly in that first half. I think Maryland feels pretty good about their offense moving the ball. Defend it like they did against UCLA, and Indiana has a big edge there. So I think how IU tackles in the open field and defends the screen passes, number 1, you're diagnosing it correctly. And then number 2, you're reacting and making the tackle or blowing it up before they can throw it. I think that's going to be critical for Indiana's defense because I don't see where else Maryland would have a whole lot of success. You know, I don't see them running the ball very well against IU. You mentioned it. I don't think they have big play receivers that are going to scare you deep a whole lot. So it's really that screen game, diagnosing it, reacting to it, and bringing that player down in the open field that I think is going to go a long way towards determining how well Indiana's defense does against Maryland's offense.
Yeah, for me, if IU is going to keep the victory flag raised, since they can't lower it because of mechanical issues on their giant flagpole, which is like, come on, man. Call Fred Glass. Whoever installed it needs to go fix it. Because apparently they called some Purdue people, and you know Purdue people, they can't fix anything. So they will keep the victory flag raised if they. I think you got to set the tone early and score points early because Maryland has this year. Their MO is to jump out to a big lead, and then they lose it along the way. If Indiana can score fast, and they've done it. You know, they've done it a lot this year. They jumped out to a lead at Iowa, at Oregon, albeit it was only a 3-0 lead.
Right.
But they announced, that they're here to play and take you seriously early in those games. Whether it be a big defensive play, you saw the 4th down stop at Oregon, sack on the first play at Oregon, and you saw the interception on the, 2nd play from scrimmage at Iowa. And that doesn't just translate to road games. That's at home too. They did it against UCLA. You saw it early against with the block punt against Illinois as well. So score early because Maryland's outscoring opponents. I forgot the number that Sig said, but they're outscoring opponents by like 100 points in the first 3 quarters.
Yeah.
Obviously, opponents are outscoring them in the 4th quarter. But if you could win, I don't want to say if you win the first quarter, you win the game because you don't want to take your foot off the pedal. But if you can keep up with them in the first half and show that, hey, we're not going to let you get out to a lead, that IU will win. And then, of course, win the turnover battle and let them make the undisciplined plays. That was something I thought was kind of disappointing against UCLA was Indiana's penalties. They had an unsportsmanlike penalty on Lou Moore. They got real lucky with not calling the taunting penalty on E.J. Williams' touchdown, which would have been soft. But how many times have, if IU's playing Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, and that's to go up big against Ohio State, somebody's making a phone call. Hey, man, let's flag that, and IU gets the ball at the 50 instead of a touchdown or whatever the penalty is. And then you had the block in the back, I believe, on the punt return that wiped out a 24-yard return. Now, they don't commit a lot of penalties, but that was the first game where you saw at least the taunting was kind of selfish, and then the unsportsmanlike conduct on Lou Moore was kind of – those selfish penalties haven't raised their heads real early. So let's go to best bets on this game.
So the last that I saw, the line was at Indiana minus 21.5. against the Terrapins. I've seen that number as low as 19.5 and as high as 23.5. So split the difference, 21.5. Total 50.5. I would take the over. I think Indiana scores in the 40s. So I like Indiana to cover that number. And the prediction I'd go with 42-14, something like that. Indiana, to me, looks really focused and locked in right now. I trust them to be prepared for this, and I don't really see what Maryland offers on defense outside of taking away the ball, which Indiana's done really well at not doing. They haven't had turnover problems. So barring that cropping up, I like Indiana to win this game comfortably. I do think Maryland will have some good plays on offense, but I don't think they can consistently drive it against this IU defense. So Indiana 42-14, that would be an over. That would be a cover of the 21.5. I like both of those. And if that's what you're taking in IU games this year, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, and recently the Maryland IU series has been funky. It's been one-score games outside of maybe one or two games. Last year was kind of a funky game too, back and forth until IU pulled away. I think IU has that killer instinct this year. They when somebody's down, they know how to step on their necks and put them out of their misery.
Yep.
I think the focus is there for this team. That's never going to be a question for me with Sig as head coach. They're always going to be. They've always been ready to play.
Right.
Why expect that they won't be ready to play for this one? Or they're not. They're always prepared for what the other team is doing. Now, Ohio State and Notre Dame just had better players, and it's no matter how prepared you are, if the guy runs faster than you, is bigger than you, and stronger than you, probably going to lose. But the over in this game, I always take the over in Indiana Maryland games. There's always a ton of points scored. Usually because of Maryland's offense, but I think Indiana's offense could cover that 50 by themselves.
They could.
If needed. However, I do think that Cignetti is realizing that, hey, we've got bigger fish to fry if we're up by, than running up the score on Maryland.
It's different than last year. Indiana doesn't, obviously, style points always matter.
You don't need to
a little
win
bit
by 50 points because your schedule is so weak.
Yeah, it is a different situation, and I've seen online posts saying, "Oh, yeah, Sig is going to run it up. That's what he always does." I don't see that. I mean, they barely throw the ball in the second half of most of these Big Ten games. They're running the ball.
Yeah, and I think that he covers. I think that you cover the spread, and then you go, hey, let's get these younger guys in and get my starters off the field, take them out of harm's way. But you're right. It is no longer, hey, we have to beat everybody by 50 because of the strength of record. Yeah, to make the playoff. It's now maybe if you want to buy, if you end up losing in the Big Ten title game, but who cares what Paul Feinbaum says? Who cares what ESPN and all them say? Because they're not going to give you credit. You could beat Maryland 100-0, and they'll be like, "Well, it's Maryland."
Yeah, if it's say 38-14, because your backups play the entirety of the fourth quarter, and you just hand it off and run it the entire time instead of 56-10. Is that going to mean the difference between the 3 seed and the 5 seed? No. It's absolutely not.
No. So I'm going to go Indiana.
That won't make the difference.
Yeah, I'm going to say Indiana 52, Maryland 17. Easy cover, easy over. I do think the Heisman Trophy plays a little bit into this too. I think you let Fernando Mendoza get his, as long as he's not taking shots.
Yeah.
Because it is a good race for the Heisman with Ty Simpson and with Julian Sain at Ohio State, where maybe an extra. He's also only like 5 touchdown passes from the IU school record, so I don't think he gets it this weekend. But that's coming up as well. I do think
Which is wild.
Yeah, Sig downplays the individual awards and says, well, if we have team success, you're going to win these awards. But I do think that deep down inside, having that on the resume, not saying that he's going to go take a job somewhere else, but just to have that feather in the cap of, hey, I coached a Heisman winner.
Well, it's recruiting too.
Yeah, and recruiting and all of that stuff, just like a bullet point of, hey, we took Fernando Mendoza, he was good at Cal.
Yeah.
And look where we developed him in less than a year. So
yeah.
I think he gets his, and I do think that while not running up the score, but I think they break the 50-point mark.
Sounds good to me. That'd be
All
fun.
right. That does it for the podcast today. You keep coming back to HoosierHuddle.com. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sign up for a membership. We have 3 levels of membership. We have a free membership where you get to go on the forums, read all our free articles. We have a monthly membership if you want to just get in for the end of football season, basketball season, and miss out on all the stuff in the summer. That's fine. It's $3 a month. We have a $30 annual membership if you want all our coverage all year round with the IU Reactionary, Inside the Numbers. We have Hoosier Historia with Andy Graham as well, and we'll have more paid content coming up as the site develops as well. So keep coming back to HoosierHuddle.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Hoosier_Huddle. We're also on TikTok and all of those things. So Indiana, Maryland, 3:30 on CBS. You could also listen to Don and Buck on the IU radio network. I like the Varsity app. It's free. You can listen anywhere, stream in your car, and all those things. So, yeah, Indiana, Maryland, chance to go 9-0.